Born out of the urgent need for a steel fist that could balance firepower, protection, and mobility, the Soviet Union's T-34 tank line not only met the battlefield's demands but also reshaped the course of World War II. From the initial shock it dealt to enemy forces to its legendary role in later victories, the T-34 proved the far-reaching impact of a revolutionary weapons design. The Soviet T-34 tank, an iconic and highly influential weapon of the 20th century, left an indelible mark on global military history. Developed during the critical phase of the Great Patriotic War, the T-34 was created to fulfill the need for a medium tank that combined powerful firepower, solid armor protection, and exceptional mobility. Its unexpected debut on the battlefield in 1941 sent shockwaves through Nazi Germany's armored forces. With its innovative sloped armor, powerful diesel engine, and formidable 76.2mm cannon, the T-34 quickly asserted dominance, becoming a nightmare for opposing troops. However, the brutal arms race of World War II soon rendered the original T-34 design less competitive as Germany introduced newer, heavier tanks. In response, the Soviet Union unveiled a revolutionary upgrade, the T-34-85. Although the original T-34 outclassed Germany's Panzer III and Panzer IV tanks, the battlefield dynamics began to shift significantly in 1943. The German army introduced the Panther medium tank and the heavy Tiger I, both equipped with thicker armor and more powerful weaponry. During the brutal Battle of Kursk in the summer of 1943, the T-34's 76mm gun proved largely ineffective in head-on engagements with these beasts, especially against the nearly impenetrable frontal armor of the Tiger I at standard combat ranges. Tests conducted on a captured Tiger I clearly showed that the 76mm gun could only penetrate its side armor at distances under 400 meters. It became evident that the Red Army needed stronger firepower to effectively counter this new threat. Upgrading the T-34's armament became a matter of survival if it was to remain the backbone of Soviet armored forces. Faced with the threat posed by the Panther and Tiger tanks, the Soviet Union explored several options. One of them was the T-43 project, an attempt to modernize the T-34 with thicker armor and a three-man turret. Developed in 1942, however, the T-43 retained the 76mm gun and became overly heavy, reducing its mobility, which conflicted with the Soviet doctrine of mobile warfare. Moreover, manufacturing the T-43 would have disrupted the highly efficient T-34 production lines. As a result, the T-43 project was abandoned in favor of directly upgrading the T-34. The chosen solution was to equip the T-34 with a new 85mm gun. Originally derived from the 85mm M1939 anti-aircraft gun, this weapon offered significantly better armor penetration than the 76mm. Tests showed the 85mm could penetrate the Tiger I's hull armor at 800 meters. However, the T-34's existing two-man turret was too cramped to accommodate the 85mm gun and operated efficiently. A new, larger turret, based on the T-43's design but modified to fit the T-34 hull, was developed. This new turret featured a wider turret ring, increasing in diameter from 1,425 millimeters to 1,600 millimeters, which required modifications to the upper hull. Most importantly, the new turret provided space for 3 crew members: a commander, a gunner, and a loader. The upgraded version of the T-34, fitted with a new turret and an 85mm gun, was designated the T-34-85. The first T-34-85's model 1943. A pivotal improvement in the T-34-85 lay in its new 85mm gun, significantly more powerful than the earlier 76mm. This weapon greatly enhanced armor penetration capabilities, allowing the T-34-85 to effectively engage Panther and Tiger I tanks at typical combat ranges while still being effective with high explosive rounds. In terms of core specifications, the T-34-85 weighed approximately 32 tons and had a 5-man crew. Its main armament was the 85mm ZES-53 gun, with an ammunition load of around 55 to 60 rounds, accompanied by 2 7.62mm DT machine guns. Armor-wise, the hull featured 45mm of frontal armor, 45mm on the sides, 40 to 45mm at the rear, and 20mm on the roof and floor. The turret boasted 90mm of frontal armor, 75mm on the sides, and 52 millimeters at the rear. The tank was powered by a V234 V12 diesel engine generating approximately 500 horsepower, enabling a top speed of 53 to 55 kilometers per hour and an operational range of 300 to 400 kilometers. These figures varied slightly depending on the factory and production period. The arrival of the T-34-85 in early 1944 restored balance on the tank battlefield. It could effectively confront the Panther and significantly challenge the Tiger I, particularly when leveraging its numerical advantage and mobility. The decision to upgrade the existing T-34 instead of transitioning to an entirely new design like the T-43 proved to be the right choice, allowing the Soviet Union to maintain high tank production during a crucial phase of the war. The T-34-85 began appearing on the battlefield in late March 1944 during operations in western Ukraine, initially causing confusion among German forces who mistook it for the rumored T-43. Guards units were typically given priority in receiving the new tanks. Although the long-term goal was to fully re-equip tank brigades with the upgraded model, many units continued to field mixed formations of both T-34-76 and T-34-85 tanks. In the final large-scale offensives of the war, particularly Operation Bagration in the summer of 1944 and the final assault on Berlin in 1945, the T-34-85 served as the Red Army's primary medium tank. The arrival of the T-34-85 significantly improved the Red Army's ability to engage German Panther and Tiger I tanks compared to the earlier T-34-76. The 85-meter Z's S-53 gun could penetrate the Tiger I's frontal armor at approximately 500 meters and the Panther's front at closer ranges or when hitting the sides. However, it still struggled against the heavy German tank's frontal armor at longer distances, forcing Soviet forces to adopt tactics based on mass assaults and rapid maneuvering to close the gap and strike from the sides or rear, where German armor was more vulnerable. After World War II, the T-34-85 continued to play a major role in the Korean War, 1950 to 1953, initially forming the core of the Korean People's Army, KPA, armored forces. It easily overpowered South Korean troops and lightly armored U.S. M24 Chaffee tanks. In the early phase, the tide began to turn when United Nations forces introduced heavier tanks, including the M4A3E8 Sherman, M26 Pershing, M46 Patton, and Britain's Centurion Mark III. While the T-34-85 remained comparable to the M4A3E8, it was clearly outmatched in firepower and armor by the newer UN vehicle. During the Vietnam War, which began in 1959, the T-34-85 was among the first tanks supplied by the Soviet Union to the Democratic Republic of Vietnam. However, as the conflict escalated and the United States entered the war directly, the T-34-85 gradually became a second-line asset in the People's Army of Vietnam, PAVN. It operated alongside PT-76 amphibious tanks and was primarily assigned to infantry support and training roles. One notable variant was a self-propelled anti-aircraft vehicle, locally modified by mounting an open turret armed with twin 37mm anti-aircraft guns on the T-34-85 chassis. In the Arab-Islami Wars, Egypt and Syria were the primary Arab countries that operated the T-34-85 starting in the mid-1950s. Egyptian T-34-85 saw their first combat during the 1956 war and continued to serve in subsequent conflicts. However, Arab T-34-85s generally performed poorly against the Israeli Defense Forces tanks, often due to poorly trained crews, ineffective tactics, and Israel's air superiority. Israel captured a number of T-34-85s, later using them for testing and training purposes. The T-34-85 stands as a golden chapter in the chronicles of tank development, not merely a weapons upgrade, but a testament to the Soviet Union's iron will and extraordinary industrial capacity amid the crucible of World War II. Born out of the urgent need to counter the rising power of Germany's Panther and Tiger tanks, the T-34-85 successfully addressed the firepower shortcomings of its predecessor, the T-34-76, by adopting a powerful 85mm gun and a more effective three-man turret, while retaining many of the core features of the original T-34, including its iconic sloped armor, durable diesel engine, and impressive mobility. Alongside some lingering limitations such as ergonomic challenges and the Christie suspension, the T-34-85 achieved an effective balance between key design elements. What truly set the T-34-85 apart was its combination of significantly enhanced firepower, agile maneuverability, increasing mechanical reliability, especially in later models, and, most crucially, an unmatched capacity for mass production. This numerical superiority, backed by a resilient wartime industrial base, gave the Red Army the means to maintain the initiative and ultimately secure victory on the Eastern Front. However, the T-34-85 was by no means a flawless design. While its armor proved effective in 1944, it quickly revealed limitations in the face of advancing anti-tank weaponry and the emergence of new generations of tanks in the post-war era. Its combat effectiveness in conflicts after World War II often depended heavily on the balance of forces, terrain, tactical deployment, crew training, and the level of logistical and air support. Nonetheless, the legacy of the T-34-85 far exceeds the bounds of World War II. It became one of the most widely exported and extensively used tanks in history, serving in dozens of armed forces around the world for over half a century. This enduring presence, coupled with the undeniable influence of the T-34's overall design, particularly the widespread adoption of sloped armor and diesel engines, firmly cemented its legendary status in the annals of armored warfare.